I was the one who hit the fucking record button. It was me.
I felt the click.
All right, maybe it was you.
It was like $25,000 pyramid where, like Wheel of Fortune, where you got to.
Pretty much.
Is that Wheel of Fortune?
It's like literally every game show. Although my favorite, remember the no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, stop. I forget what it's called, but do you remember that game show?
No.
He just walks away. I love it when he does that shit.
It was a dumb reference, but you didn't have to just leave, Mark. You didn't have to just fucking leave. You could have texted me afterwards and said that was fucking stupid. You didn't have to just leave. All right, Mark, you want to say the thing?
The Welcome to Reckoning Brothers, where we mock hypocrisy and
insult petty tyrants.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what we do here. Did Josh leave? Oh my God, this is a circus of fucking nonsense. Josh.
What are you drinking, Josh?
What do you think I'm drinking, Mark?
What kind of beer do you got? Miller Lite?
You know, I'm getting a little tired of you and your little holier than thou and fucking Jameson bullshit. You lick on some fucking balls, eat the pubes, whatever, and put your doily on there.
Did you just say eat the pubes? Was that buried in there?
I was literally just watching Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, and Kumar is trimming his pubes in Harold's room.
I remember very well. That's a classic film. That is up there with Casablanca, in my personal opinion.
I don't remember that scene in that movie.
Oh, and by the way, I got you beat with Four Roses Small Batch. But anyways, Josh, you know when you go onto YouTube, and anyone that has a YouTube channel knows this, when you go into your YouTube studio, it shows the comments down in like the bottom, just when you log into the YouTube studio homepage.
No, but okay.
It does. At least on mine, it does. I don't know how to turn it off. So you see the last few comments. I don't like looking at the comments, but I just happened to glance at them the other week when I was uploading last week's, and someone made a comment, and it was like a negative comment because that's what comments are on YouTube, based on our channel. Yeah. And it was something to the effect of, I was commenting saying that wokeness makes people hate white people. It was on one of the shorts we posted on, right? And the person commenting said something to the effect of, imagine how crazy it is to think that wokeness makes people hate white people. And I read that and I'm like, this fucking guy, what the fuck? But then I thought, I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. What could be going through his head to make him think what I thought was crazy? So I'm like, okay, wokeness is a vague term, right? It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think we have a pretty good idea of what it is. I can explain in a couple minutes, but if you think that wokeness 100% makes everybody hate white people no matter what, okay, that might be a little bit crazy, right?
That would be crazy.
But so if he interpreted what I said as that, I was saying a crazy thing. But no, I was basically saying that it often does. And I wanted to define what I think wokeness is. That's what my whole thing was going on to. Because that's one of those terms that is really loose and it's really charged. Well, Mark, tell me if you agree with.
No,
I just wanted to. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, in relation to what we're talking about, what you're talking about, and how that person interpreted it on whiteness, white people, etc. So just to be clear, the woke culture blames white people and whiteness for everything, right?
Yeah.
In their world, the Maoris never existed, the Moors never existed, the Arab slave trade never existed, the Moors never invaded Europe, the conquistadors never slaughtered the indigenous people of Mexico, Central and South America. The Mongols never conquered China, right? It was only European whites that slaughtered indigenous people when they came here to North America, and no other atrocities in human history ever happened.
That's paramount. The way that I define, I thought a lot about this after I read the comment. How do I define wokeness? I define it as two things. Number one, the raising of intersectionalism to a religion or religious-like level.
Yes.
Number two.
The hell was that?
What was that? Did you get? You got a hype button. All right. Okay. Cool. I like it. And that's. I love that you actually have a button, and it's not just a button you're pressing on your fucking computer. That's great. Number two, replacing the individual as a primary unit of measurement to groups of people as a primary unit of measurement.
Correct.
Would you agree that those are two pretty decent definitions?
Absolutely. And also, I want to add to that.
Okay.
Everybody in woke culture, so they always claim that you can't define wokeness or woke, and yet they believe men can have babies. We're talking to people who claim the right can't define woke, simultaneously believe men can have babies and periods. Men cannot have babies and they cannot have periods. Take it a step further in relationship to public policy, which is DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI places value on people based on immutable qualities, right? DEI assigns value points to human beings based on things like skin color and sexuality. That's the very definition of racism and bigotry. And then when you do a deeper dive into DEI, what you find out is, and I forget the percentages, but it's huge. People that are DEI administrators are predominantly white leftists, white guilty leftists who promote, who are in charge of DEI policies, where in the corporate offices, corporate and government offices where they work. And obviously, if they believed what they claim they believe, they wouldn't be the ones in charge of DEI at their corporation. They would give that job to a black person or a gay person or a trans person. They're not doing that. They're keeping those jobs for themselves. I believe the percentage is 76%. It doesn't really matter whether it's 76% or 86%. It's a very high percentage.
I think you said the key word there was white guilty.
Guilty white liberals, guilty white leftists, which is nothing new. Like guilty, I've been talking about guilty white leftists for 40 years.
There's definitely a new flavor to it with the wokeness, so I think, but I mean, it has its own name that people recognize. That has to count for something. But anyways, thank you to that person for that comment. But perhaps I was clumsy in how I stated it. Wokeness has a tendency to make people hate people because of their skin color. It makes you racist. Maybe that's what I should say. It has a tendency to make people
It does.
racist.
And it doesn't make everybody racist, and not all people who are woke are bad people.
No,
I hate the broad brush, whether it's used on conservatives or liberals or progressive, or just like, I don't believe all progressives are evil. I believe a lot of progressive policies are evil, and some progressives may be evil, right? Like but I don't believe in the broad. I don't believe in the broad brush. I believe the vast majority of progressives who believe in policies that I think are counterproductive or bad or lead to bad outcomes are good people, and I believe that progressive and myself agree on the outcomes that we want, whether it's less homeless people, less addiction, more housing, or what have you. It's just that both of us, it's just that we disagree with each other on how best to get there.
Can we just be thankful of how lucky we are to live in a place where we actually all have the same goals for the most part, liberals and conservatives? A few weeks ago, I was trying to remember what happened with fucking Kosovo, right? I couldn't remember the details of that shit. So I was looking it up and I was having AI help me out. And those people back then, and a lot of them still do, they want like a child to be dead because that child is born in a different religion. All over the place in that fucked up area of the world, right? None of us think that here. The most conservative motherfucker, the most even really racist person I've ever met in my life wouldn't wish harm on a child of another race. We don't do that here. Not even close. Insane people do, but normal people, like conservatives, liberals, all across the whole spectrum, if you look at an inner city child, we all want what's best for that inner city child. We just have different ways of getting there. That's not true everywhere in the world. There are places in the world, hey, if that child is of a different religion or a different race, they want that child dead. That's how fucked up a world we live in is.
Yeah.
Were you referencing like Kosovo, Bosnia, Herzegovina? Is that what?
Yeah, and all the Balkanization and everything that happened, like Sarajevo back in the 90s when it was under siege. I don't even know what brought it up, but I'm like, I cannot remember any of this fucking shit. So I just went through and just did like a AI assisted refresher course on it real quick.
So Scott, you were going to talk about Luigi Mangione, and I forgot the other guy's name.
Chamel Abdul Karim,
who's the warehouse fire starter, the warehouse arsonist.
The Sherman guy?
No, not the Sharman guy.
What was that? A toilet paper, like a toilet paper?
Oh yeah, the Sharman. I thought Josh meant.
So yeah,
I thought Josh meant Sharma guy, the Sharma from January 6th.
Sherman.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, the shaman, the QAnon shaman.
I thought he said shaman.
That guy's hilarious.
And I'll let you, I'll have you start off with what you wanted to say about that, and then I'm like,
well, I think we need to add. I mean, you're diving into the topic of, I don't know, assassins,
cold-blooded murder.
Do we need to dive in a little further with what happened yesterday, and maybe add in?
I think it's relevant. I think it's the next step in this political violence, which is what we were going to talk about.
Yeah,
I think it's hand in hand. I think it's part of the same thing.
Yeah.
I just want to interject before you get started on Mangione and stuff, Scott, that the perpetually online left, and I'm going to do. So that one meme where you have the guy is like got one button here and one button here, and he has like two choices, right? That meme template. So the perpetually online left.
He's sweating, trying to decide.
Yeah. The perpetually online left today is insane. They can't make up their mind whether it was staged or whether they're upset that this guy wasn't successful in assassinating Donald Trump. And so I'm going to do the meme, right? Where I'm going to like online leftists. It was staged. God damn it, he missed. Because you literally like if you go down a rabbit hole, you'll find exactly that. Like yesterday, they were talking about it was staged. This morning, they were talking about it was staged. This afternoon, they're like, God damn it, he missed. And I'm like, you fuckers are insane. You're literally insane. Not only like, just you've gone off the deep end with political violence. Like, I just want to be clear here. If you were making jokes about Paul Pelosi and the hammer guy that intruded his house, then you're an asshole. If you're rooting on political violence, this guy that tried to assassinate Trump administration officials and Donald Trump, we have his manifesto now. It's obviously not staged. There's no evidence that it was staged. There never will be any evidence that it was staged. But no matter how long and no matter how many mountains, no matter the amount of evidence that proves it was an assassination attempt, will that it was staged people ever believe it was an assassination. They'll never
believe it. They'll never believe it because they're conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists don't rely on evidence. They find a story that can seem plausible. They cement it into their head and they reason backwards from their conclusion every single time. Just
and I wonder if it's not with many of them, if it's not a psychological thing where they spent so much time doing their I wish it would happen tweets, or I wish it would happen TikToks, or I wish it would happen Instagrams, or Donald Trump is Hitler. Killing, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, that would be a good thing, etc. I wonder if it isn't internalized guilt that they have to say that they have to now claim it was staged because they spent so much time wishing for and proselytizing for political assassination. I don't know.
Amen, man. People are fucked. Luigi Mangione. This is back in 2024. It's been that long. December.
Very handsome guy. Very handsome man.
Very, for a man of Italian descent. Yes. So he's handsome for that. That's just a joke. I feel like we can get some hate.
He didn't land that one.
It was a bad joke and it was a hateful joke. Like, I mean, if it's a hateful joke, you at least.
Hey, I'm gonna have to get that away from him.
Back in 2024 is when this shit happened, right? Shot the CEO, United Healthcare, Brian Johnson. A self-made man, by the way. His father, operated a grain silo, I think was where he came from.
Yeah, he's from farm country.
Man, which Luigi Mangione.
From Iowa or Nebraska, Scott? Iowa?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, dude. You can tell any difference between Iowa and Nebraska.
It's probably Minnesota or something like that.
I think it's Iowa, but go ahead.
Okay.
Wherever they have grain, which is a lot of places. Right, so he shot Brian Johnson, CEO United Healthcare. Blah, blah, blah. We all know what happened. Quick recap of public response in the positive. He had a billboard put up in Riverside County, California, praising him. He had the mural in Seattle of him as a saint. Remember that? I think you're the first person, Mark, that shared that photo with me. Someone put up a Give, Send, Go, which as of January of this year has raised $1.4 million.
What's a Give, Send, Go? Is that like a GoFundMe?
It's a GoFundMe where, GoFundMe, everybody rebelled against them after the trucker thing in Canada, right? So Give, Send, Go is look, you can give money to fucking whatever, right? So it's the free speech of giving money platform.
Yeah, GoFundMe has restrictions on being able to give money to people that are accused of or convicted of things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Give, Send, Go was out before the Canadian trucker protest, but I remember that's what put them into the limelight.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what put them into the limelight, yes.
Comments on what I said?
The first thing I want to say about the Luigi Mangione fans, they remind me of every side character in every movie about a murderer or a serial killer. That, and his attractiveness has a lot to do with it, I'm sure. They remind me of that little side character in films about a murderer, where this little side character in the film is making a little shrine with like magazine articles and photographs out of newspapers, and they make a little shrine to the killer, right? And they keep it, they keep it in their bedroom, or they put it up on a wall in their, in their living room. And it's the character I'm talking is never a main character. It's just like somebody off to the side, a side character in a film. And so that it's this cult of people that remind me of those movie characters.
What the hell are you watching?
I think I know what he's talking about. You're talking about she was like Ted Bundy, almost, and these are like a Ted Bundy.
People making homages to him. Is that
so? You're going to ask me to identify a particular film, Josh, and
I would like you to. Yes.
Yeah, I can't do that off the top of my head at the moment.
Okay.
But there are side characters in films about serial killers and murderers where they have fans, like Scott was pointing out. Ted Bundy had a lot of cult follower fans. So did that fucking who was the guy that made everybody drink the Kool-Aid? Scott from California.
Jim Jones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that kind of thing, right? So Ted Bundy was considered a handsome guy. He had in the movie that portrayed the Boston Strangler. I believe there was a character in that movie that thought the Boston Strangler was cool, etc. It's just like it's a cult of personality of people that glommed onto Luigi Mangione because he's a handsome guy and he killed a CEO, and the CEO was guilty of social murder, and I'll get into that more in a minute. Was guilty of social murder, therefore he deserved to be killed.
There's a bit of like the serial killer worshiping, but it's also just kids that think that violent politics is cool and hip, right? Like it's just this is cool. Yeah, man, we're fucking fighting the system, man, because they don't understand it, which is the point I really wanted to get to. The real problem about all of this is these are angry people that don't understand complexity and don't accept complexity because their ego won't allow them to be like, I can't fucking understand this shit. You ever tried to understand finance? I do. It's fucking hard. So you know what you should do? Be fucking humble and realize, hey, I don't understand this shit. This is complex. It's going to take time, and I should come at it with humility. Angry people don't fucking do that. Before we go on, can I just quickly go through Chamel Abdul Karim's thing? And then let's just keep going on. Motherfucker burned down a warehouse in San Bernardino. This was household products that caught on fire real quick, like toilet paper. $500 million in products in a $150 million warehouse. Luckily, all 20 employees there were unharmed. Chamel, he was an employee there. He was caught. Not caught. I am so sorry. He posted on social media a video of him with a lighter lighting this shit, saying all you had to do was pay us enough to live. Here's what I want to say. He made $37,000 a year there, roughly. The average rent of where he lives is $2,000, which is what 60-some% of the income required to live. My point about all these is that there are legitimate grievances and problems that exist, but they're so complex and they really require knowledge to understand them, and they require people devoting a lot of their time and energy to solving small parts of these problems for them to really change and get better. That's what these people don't understand and will never understand. Am I wrong, guys?
No, and perhaps if Chamel had spent 5 or 6 hours a night, 3 or 4 nights a week waiting tables at a second job instead of getting radicalized by Marxist propaganda that says the best way to get back at the man is to go set fire to a warehouse or shoot a CEO, then he'd have more money left over at the end of the month. I know that when I was his age, I worked 2 jobs to pay my rent. When I was in college, I worked 2 jobs and sometimes 3 if I was playing music out at night, to pay my rent, to pay for my weed, to pay for my beer, right? Yeah, I'm getting really sort of just over people complaining about, like, yes, I know things are expensive, and I know that you're jealous and you feel like you were dealt a really bad hand because your mom and dad, if you came from a nuclear family, because your mom and dad were able to buy a house in their early 30s, and they both had modest jobs, and they could afford more than you can afford now. I can guarantee you that your mom and dad, probably one of them, worked 2 jobs when they were in their 20s. I don't know a single person that I went to college with that didn't work 2 jobs. for at least 5 or 10 years during college. During college,
I understand your point.
Yeah,
I understand your point. I am sympathetic to you should be able to work one job 40 hours a week,
yes,
and be able to live. I accept that gripe. And I'm just saying that the reasons for that are complex. I have been convinced that inflation is a huge reason why you can't just work a job like that. And inflation, from what I understand, in a nutshell, the government cannot afford to spend what it spends. Therefore, the Federal Reserve prints money.
And devalues the currency.
Devalues the currency. Therefore, you cannot buy as much. Therefore, things are more expensive and you can't live.
And it's not the current inflation rate, which is low, has been low. It's been lowered since the Biden administration, etc. It's the cumulative inflation.
It's a cumulative power. That's why inflation's doubled in 20 years. Or something. Everything's more expensive by
yes. And when you say and when you say it's complex, that's true. I heard a woman in her little TikTok, and now I don't have TikTok on my phone, but if I go through my newsfeed, it'll pull up TikTok videos of this influencer, and she's bemoaning the fact that her and her husband, both have good jobs, and they both pay, and they pay like $2,600 a month rent for a relatively small apartment. And she's at her mom and dad's house, which is a modest house on a lake. It's a lakefront house. And her mom and dad were both school teachers. And she's talking about how, look what my parents were able to get. And they were just school teachers. And now here's me and my husband now. And we live in an apartment and we really like a house, but we can't get one. And our rent's really expensive and the roof leaks. And this influencer is a progressive. And the very first thing I thought of is, your parents grew up in a different age, yes, and things were different, yes. They also grew up in a world, they grew up in a country that had half as many people as we have now. When you double the population in a relatively small period of time, and also import, in the last 20 years, 25 million legal and illegal immigrants, you're going to run out of space. You're going to shrink the amount of space there is for other people to share. And you could get a lake house. You could buy a lake house at where her parents live on 2 school teacher incomes back then, because there was a large supply of places like that. Economics is supply and demand, and we have less supply and more demand.
Maybe we should make building easier with less regulation so it's cheaper to do, and there would be cheap places for people to live. Maybe people should consider living outside of expensive areas like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, where they can afford it. But the world's going to be so different anyways because of AI. The entire economic system is going to need to change, so that'll be irrelevant in 5 years. I really look forward to talking to you guys about that. Healthcare is Luigi Mangione's big concern. That's fucking complex too. But I try to do my due diligence and understand this. From what I can understand, the number one issue with healthcare, why it's so expensive, is complexity. It is. It blows my mind trying to fucking understand it, right? Lack of transparency makes it so that pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, whatever, are exempt from market pressures because there is no transparency. You don't know how much you spend for shit, right? Would you agree that that's a huge problem, if not the number one problem?
It's a huge problem. It's probably the number one problem. And also, more than that, the Americans, the ACA, Obamacare, ruined healthcare. It absolutely ruined it. Deductibles and premiums were vastly lower before that was passed, and now they're vastly higher. the motive for what did the ACA stand for? The Health Affordable Care Act, right? Was to make things more affordable. It did nothing that it promised it was going to do, other than you were able to keep an insurance policy even if you had a pre-existing condition. If that were the only thing that it addressed, then one could make an argument that it was a good thing. But that's not the only thing that it addressed, right? It crowded out private health care. It made catastrophic health care almost impossible to get. Like, nobody 25 who's in good health really needs, unless you have a pre-existing condition or you're in poor health, you're obese, you have diabetes, something. A healthy 25-year-old does not need a Cadillac healthcare plan.
Yeah.
A healthy 25-year-old needs a good catastrophic plan in case he's in a car accident, in case he comes down with cancer, right? But it made all of those it eliminated all of the other choices and made everything else way more expensive.
Can I say a personal anecdote from my own life here?
Yeah.
The one thing that kept me from going into business for myself was healthcare. Was health insurance.
There you go.
When I got married, I was able to get on my wife's health insurance. So we discussed this, of course, beforehand, but when I got married and was able to get on her health insurance, I decided it was worth it for me to take the risk and become my own entrepreneur and have my own company doing what I do independently. I did it. I would have never even tried it beforehand. Most companies are not profitable for I don't know how long. I went independent. I didn't even have to make one phone call to become profitable. Literally, someone who called me on something else, I just said, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this by myself if you're interested." So not only did I get business from that individual, but he recommended me to somebody else, and I got another client, which was what I needed to make my nut and to be profitable. In one phone call within 2 weeks. I would have never even done that if it wasn't for the astronomical, what it boils down to really, the astronomical cost of healthcare. That's what everything boils down to is fucking expensive, right? And I am kind of mad at the system for that. I know it's not any one individual's fault. It's the fault of a bunch of really complex things, but I understand people being upset. I'm very grateful that I was able to, everything worked out the way that it did. I would have liked for it to be done earlier, but who fucking cares, right? It's these things, it is fucked up that this is an issue when it doesn't have to be. But I think that people are so, what is the word? Spoiled, childish. They want to snap their fingers and have things change. When real change takes time and effort, involvement in local politics, and a bunch of boring shit that people just don't want to do.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking about it yesterday when I knew what we were going to talk about. Yeah, it has a lot to do with narcissistic personality disorder. It has a lot to do with the way. So when you're raised without consequences and everything's been easy for you, and then you're on your own and you haven't been taught how to make adjustments or how to work a little bit harder at something else or to study something and figure out different ways of getting through what it is that you think is an impediment to your success. When the instant gratification of winning a video game, getting your trophy, when getting a participation trophy, etc. When all of that you and especially with families with kids of single moms with no father in the house, to teach you basic things like life is not a bowl of cherries. You have to do chores. There's work involved, there's study involved, and then you get to be 20 years old or 22 years old, and not everything is immediate, and then you lash out. Now, I need health care, I need this, I need that. It's hard to get, I'm mad, so I'm going to burn something down, goddamn the system, etc. And it's a pathology, and it's deeply, deeply destructive.
All right. Well, I don't know. That was the main point that I had with all of this, is that the angry people with little knowledge in this just desire to fix things right now because they don't have patience or they don't have understanding of the depth of the world is going to lead to more political violence, like what happened just yesterday. It's going to happen more and more and more. And unfortunately, I think we've got a pretty rough political violence wise next few years.
Yeah. We also have the desensitization of the youth. I think that has a lot to do with it too. They're accustomed to violence, and they're accustomed to seeing certain things that you and I, Scott, and I don't know, Mark's really old, so I don't know when he would have saw it, but you and I, we didn't come across things on a day-to-day basis, which would equate to, two girls, one cup kind of thing. It was that nowadays is instantaneous gratification about that. And I think that has a lot to do with why we have a problem today with our youth and the ability to pull a trigger without thinking about repercussions or thinking about the person that they're targeting, and it also rolls into cancel culture too. So that's my opinion. So.
I couldn't fucking agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more either. Yeah, very well said, Josh. Very, very smart. So the perpetually online left and this wave of people between the ages of 18 or even a little bit younger, but 16 and 30, who believe in socialism, in communism, in the Soviet Union, etc. And they believe that political violence, one of them the other day tossed out to me the quote from Jack Kennedy, which was, "Those who make change impossible make violent revolution inevitable." And what struck me about that person giving me that Jack Kennedy quote is their historical idiocy, their historical illiteracy of the time period in which Jack Kennedy made that statement. The greatest nonviolent political movement in the Western world in all of human history, or at least in modern history, was a reverend from a Baptist church in Georgia, who launched the greatest civil rights movement in the world from his Christian church. That was a revolution that was nonviolent, from where the good guys were nonviolent and the bad guys, the racists, were the violent ones. Motherfucker, you threw that fucking quote at me, and you're the bad guy who wants the violence. You would have been bombing black churches in Alabama if you were living back then. If you're going to quote me, if your argument is we need violence to make change. It was also the bad guys, by the way. It was the violent side, the human violent side, that lost the Civil War. So we haven't seen the two in United States history, right? Where violence was a part of a movement change, the two sides that were using it were the fucking bad guys. Yes, of course, the Union used violence to crush the Confederacy, but it was the Confederacy that started the war. It was the Confederacy that was committing violence against Black Americans in the South. So it was just, I would have had a conversation with the person, except they were insane. You're got a very difficult time talking people out of believing that violence is an answer. If that's what they believe, that's what they've been radicalized in. If that's what their condition, if that's their point of view. Hopefully, one or two people over time will watch us talking, or somebody else talking, or Douglas Murray, or a lot of other smart people, and say, political violence is bad and it's wrong. It's bad no matter who does it, and we should all condemn it.
Amen, sister. I can't add anything onto that.